Welcome to CNN 10. I'm Carl Azuz with your objective explanation of events making headlines worldwide. Today, that begins with what's been happening in Jerusalem. The Middle Eastern city, whose population is more than 8.5 million, is holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. For decades, Israel has considered Jerusalem to be its capital. Palestinians want the eastern part of the city to serve as the future capital of a Palestinian country. So the city's disputed between the two sides. The United Nations sees Jerusalem as an international city, so the UN doesn't agree with Israel that Jerusalem is its capital. And most countries who have an embassy in Israel have it in the city of Tel Aviv, not Jerusalem. A United States law passed in 1995 formally recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital and calls for the U.S. embassy to be moved there. But though every American president since then has voiced support for this idea at some point, they've all signed a presidential waiver to avoid actually moving the American embassy, saying it's necessary for U.S. national security to keep the embassy in Tel Aviv. President Donald Trump changed that in December, formally announcing that the U.S. recognizes Jerusalem as its capital, and the U.S. embassy officially opened there on Monday. The American leader said Israel has the right, like every other country, to decide its own capital, but that for years the U.S. has failed to acknowledge the reality that Israel's capital is Jerusalem. Israel's leader, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, said Israel was deeply grateful and that by recognizing history, President Trump has made history. But Palestinian leaders have strongly opposed this embassy move. They say it's a major setback for hopes of peace between Israelis and Palestinians. The Arab League, an association of Middle Eastern and North African countries, called the move illegal, and Iran and France also spoke out against it. Palestinian protests at the border of Israel and the Palestinian territory of Gaza became violent Monday. Dozens of Palestinians were killed. It was the deadliest day of fighting between Israelis and Palestinians since 2014.
It is still quite tense here. Here we go. All right. It looks like there is a drone, one of these tear gas drones that is flying over here. We're hearing the crack of live rounds. I don't know where that's coming from, but these people, you can see, they're scrambling out of the way. And this has kind of been the scene throughout the morning. We've seen this drone dropping this tear gas, and then the people start scrambling. I don't know if you can hear that, but that sounds like the pop of live fire, possibly trying to go after that drone. Here we go. Now you can see there's the tear gas that's dropping from the drone. It's hitting into the crowds as they're scrambling, and they're trying to push these people away back from the border. The border is about, probably about maybe 1,000 yards away from me, but you can see that it's just a very tense situation. We're expecting this to pick up throughout the day. Thousands of people, the Israeli military predicts over 100,000 people are expected to come out. Their goal is to cross that border. Israel says they have a number of ways they're going to try to prevent that. First with verbal warnings, then with non-lethal tear gas. But if they get close enough, they say, then they will use live ammunition. They say their greatest fear is for a large rush across that border. So as you can see, today, very tense and already deadly.
10-second trivia. The process of solidifying a fatty acid is known as what? Emulsification, hydrogenation, extrication, or hydrolyzation? Hydrogenation, which simply means to combine with hydrogen, is the process by which fatty acids are solidified. The World Health Organization, part of the UN, wants every country on Earth to get rid of artificial trans fats. Some animals produce trans fats naturally, and we ingest them naturally when we eat certain meats or dairy products. But artificial trans fats, also called trans fatty acids, are created when vegetable oil hardens during hydrogenation. They're found in fried foods, snack foods, certain baked foods, also margarine, coffee creamer, and some frostings. They don't go bad as quickly as other fats. But trans fats have been linked to a number of health problems. The WHO has issued a step-by-step guide for how countries can remove trans fats. It can't penalize nations that don't do it, and one nutrition researcher says substituting another type of saturated fat for trans fat won't turn junk food into health food. But a public health advocate says your heart will know the difference, and that eliminating trans fats doesn't change the taste or cost of food.
It's an ingredient in a lot of our favorite foods: microwave popcorn, cookies, cakes, frozen pizza, and much more. Trans fats. They increase shelf life and they add flavor to processed foods. But the FDA is now saying they are not safe and wants to ban them. It's a move they say would save thousands of lives.
We think it's time to address and really phase out the remaining uses of trans fat in the diet so that we can reduce the incidence of heart disease and deaths resulting from heart attack.
You see, trans fats lower good cholesterol and they raise bad cholesterol. What we're trying to avoid is this: LDL, or bad cholesterol, building up as plaque in the blood vessel walls, because that plaque buildup is what can cause heart attacks. The CDC says ditching trans fats would prevent up to 20,000 heart attacks a year and as many as 7,000 more deaths from heart disease. New York City banned trans fats from restaurants in 2007, and many companies and popular chains around the country have already phased them out. The Grocery Manufacturers Association says that it looks forward to working with the FDA to better understand their concerns and how the industry can better serve consumers.
In the classroom, Ricky Perez has a GPA of 3.8. On the football field as a high school junior, college recruiters were watching him. Perez had the most rushing yards of anyone in southern Arizona. But he took a hit no one could see coming, and his perseverance through cancer is why he's a positive athlete. CNN was on the field when he returned to it.
It was like the last week of spring ball. I asked my mom to put an appointment because I was feeling discomfort, things like that. That same day they sent us to the hospital because a doctor said that it could be a tumor. I kind of got scared. I was like, how is this happening? Like, why?
My heart dropped. I felt like an emptiness. I really wasn't sure how to interpret such news.
The surgery was pretty bad because I couldn't walk. Like, I'm an active guy, and being there laying down every day, like, that's what hit me the most.
During his first times in chemo, he would break down.
I wouldn't want to talk to anybody. I would barely be able to eat, and it's just horrible.
He told me, "Mom, I don't want this anymore."
He would get extremely emotional and feel as though all his life work was going to an end because he was going through cancer.
People would say like I would be mad, but like I just didn't feel good. It was one of the worst experiences in my life.
I've never seen my little brother that way, and I never want to see him like that again.
Yo pienso que todos mis hijos pues están preparados para soportar cosas difíciles de la vida.
He finished the chemo session on Friday, and the next Monday he would be out here like nothing happened. When cancer picked Ricky, it picked the wrong kid.
The best parts of the whole experience was him realizing how much support he has, not just from his family, but from his friends and the community.
10 years from now, I'm not going to remember the score of the game. You know, I'm going to remember Ricky getting into that end zone and making that a big moment for him and telling him, you know, congratulations and giving him a hug.
Seeing him back on the field is a dream come true. Not just his dream, but our dream, because he's back out there doing what he loves.
The challenges made me more grateful about the little things in life. It just made me more humble. It just changed me for the better, honestly.
Apparently, humanoid robots can now run like we can. Here's proof. This probably doesn't matter as much as long as we can still run faster. But this latest creation by Google-owned Boston Dynamics could still keep you up at night. It doesn't just run, it can leap over logs and bust out backflips. We're not sure what kind of applications there'll be for something like this. Maybe one day it'll try to chase people down like a real-life RoboCop. Or maybe its batteries will run out before it traipses anyone. We hope it'll be Saunter some sort of restriction, because if we're out taking a stroll and that thing short circuits, manages to outpace us and jauntily tramps on our rights to ramble, it's not something we'll be able to take in stride. I'm Carl Azuz, pulling the plug on today's CNN 10.